What's up, nerds? I have a box. This box. And I'm going to show you how I made this box into a virtual instrument. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the EXS24 part for two reasons. First, it doesn't exist anymore. We have the sampler now, but at the moment that I'm making this video, I have not yet updated Logic. So I'm still working with the EXS24, and there's so many videos about how to work that I'm just going to link a couple on the description or the card thing here. Now, uh, what happens with this box? Back in April, it's June right now. Back in April, Vans put out a contest, just a small thing on their Instagram, to do something off the wall with your old shoe boxes. In this case, I was not crafty enough to think of something other than a virtual instrument. So what did I do? In this case, I did a percussion instrument with my shoebox that I uploaded to Pianobook. Hopefully, it'll be up in a couple of weeks, if not already. You can check it out. Also, in the description, there's going to be a link for that. To do this, I got very DIY about it. So main thing is the box. Obviously, it has a very particular sound. Now this box, we're done with it. And then this. Uh, this was my way of figuring out a solution to the fact that it was a little aggressive if you play with your fingers. So now this is actually just a colored pencil and some napkins wrapped around it, but that makes like a mallet kind of thing, so you can do that instead of that. Anyway, two things that I used in this situation to make this virtual instrument. Now let's go to Logic and I'll show you. I've already done a few things here. This is already done. I got distracted while starting this, kind of went on a whim and didn't really record my process, but I don't want to talk about the whole process. I just want to talk about the processing mainly, because we already know how to record things, and I assume that if you're watching this video, you also know how to use EXS24 and how to handle your samples. If not, Pianobook has all the resources you need to know about that. In here, I want to focus first on this track, this first track. Here is the initial hit of the box. It sounds like this. There's really nothing to it. It's very simple. It's just a cardboard box. There's three separate velocities or intensities, if you want to see it like that. There's already separated them here after I process them to the piano ones, the mezzo forte ones, and the very loud ones here. So in this case, I'll show you all the plugins that I use. First, I used a pitch shifter, the Logic one, just because it was the easiest one, the one that was taking less processing power, because I used a lot of third-party plugins that were taking a lot of CPU. So I just used this one straight up to bring it down just a little bit. And then I have an EQ here, and this is bringing ridiculous amounts of low end that we're gonna need to make it really have some body, because right now it's not a big thing. It's a small cardboard box, but I went a little crazy on it. 7 dB at around 88, and it's a shelf, and I took about 30 because you don't even hear the rest of that. It's not really needed that much. So now we have a little bit more low end in there. Then I have a compressor, a CLA 76, because it's my favorite compressor. I put it on the kick preset. I was not gonna try and go crazy with it. It's supposed to be a low end percussion instrument, so the kick preset works just fine for it. I left it in black, and I turned off the analog on every plugin here because I don't want too much hiss on it. There's gonna be too much noise. As you can see, we have a lot of those here. Now this is bringing this very loud, but also keeping it pretty tight. After that, I have this little guy, the soft tube saturation knob, it, that's it. That's all the plugin does. It just adds saturation. It gives me a little bit more punch to it. And it's just a hair. It's not doing that much. After that, I went for some reverb to give it a little bit of space, but not that much. I used 3 reverbs at the end of all this. This is the first one, and this is just getting the low end. As you can see, I took out all the high end and even roll off some high end on the output EQ. I have it 100% dry and just a little bit wet, is just to add a little bit of space to make it seem like it's a bigger instrument or bigger thing. As you can see, it kind of gives it a little bit of room. After that, we have also Waves Max Bass. This is gonna give us way more low end, just adding low end. We're adding low end on all this, like that. Let me show you without it, and now with it. So it's adding some low end there, some frequencies over here at 250, where most of the very rumbly sounds that already sound like something like a note live. And then we have Low Air, also by Waves, which does a similar thing as Max Bass, but it's not the same. It's similar, as in it's adding low end, but it does it in a different way. So I use both, usually for bass tracks as well. As you can tell, we get massive amounts of low end now. Now with it. Okay, so these two are just giving us a lot of body and size to the sample. Then we have the Arturia Rev Plate. I just really like this reverb. I could have used something else, but I really like this one. Now this is gonna put us really in a room and give it the tail that we wanted at the very end. It's distorting a little bit, probably because my computer is doing too many things at once. At the end of the sample, it doesn't really distort like that. And then we have the Bittersweet. This is a transient shaper, and I got it on sweet, so it's gonna take some of the attack out of the question. It's also adding a little bit of distortion during the recording, but when I process it, it didn't really do that. As you can tell, it's taking a little, just a tiny bit of the transient, so that it doesn't like really drive in the first hit and then goes down and dies. Now, that is the first section, the first layer. The second layer would be this track right here. This track right here, what it is not only another octave down with a sound shifter from Waves as well, a sound shifter pitch, but also this is just the tail of a third reverb that I believe was the Abbey Road plates. As you can tell, this is just reverb, just the tail. It's the same sample, the same sounds, but just the reverb. And then I shift it down so that it gives it another dimension of a big thing, which is what we're trying to create with this little box. So now that both of those are together, we're starting to have this really kind of like a bass drum sound. It's a really big sounding thing. And I separated those in 3 different layers, which is a soft one, a middle one, and a loud one. So this is the sound of it. These 2 layers. These are not in the same order as these, because they were all in different spots of intensity, but this is what they sound like. As a soft one, or middle one, or strong one, the loud one. All right, and there's um, three. There's a fourth one uh, of the very soft ones that it's slightly softer than the rest, and I use that as a single uh, pianissimo layer for all of them. These are gonna be our round robins. So that's basically it. With these three round robins and layers, I just did the basics. Went into EXS, imported everything. Now there are more to this instrument. There are more things to this instrument than these three. These three would be this big box zones here. And then there's two other sounds. One of them is the dry sound, which is basically this track right here, these sounds, but in a separate keys, so you can have that very very dry. And then the other one is the lid of the box, which made a more snare kind of sound, which I'll show you guys right now. Okay, so this is what it sounds like at the end. That's the dry one, and then there's the lid. Each of these have about 3 or 4 round robins. This one has 4, I believe. The rest of them have 3, and 3 or 4 dynamic layers. Again, you can find this instrument hopefully in Pianobook already. It was really fun, really crafty, if I say so myself. And yeah, so that's it for me today, this week. That's what I'm nerding about this week after the whole Westworld competition that took basically all of June. Um, link to that on the description below if you want to check it out as well. I would love to hear your comments on it. And I'm going to leave the Pianobook links as well so that you can check this instrument out and check all the other things that are happening over there. Remember, if you like what I'm doing, let me know. Put a comment below, subscribe, hit the like button thing, do all this stuff, and I will see you guys eventually.